Hello, my name is PT Hylton. Let's talk writing. So today I have some bad news for you and some good news. What do you want to hear first? Of course you're going to say the bad news. No one ever says they want to hear the good news first, because then the good news would be sullied because you'd be like, yeah, this is great, but what is the bad news? So we'll start with the bad news. And this isn't news at all, it's just a reminder. Your life is finite. Sorry to tell you this, but at some point you will no longer be living. And that kind of hit me this week when I was looking at my to-read list on the reading service Oyster. I have a to-be-read list, and I was looking through this list. Basically, every time I see an interesting book, I add it to the list. I was flipping through there today, and I was like, wow. In my lifetime, I'm going to read a finite number of books. I don't know if I'm going to get to all these books, to be honest. So that made me think, like, gosh, I should probably be picking and choosing the ones I'm really interested in. On the writing front, there's kind of a popular saying that you'll see on writers' message boards and in blogs and stuff like that to writers that says die empty. And the idea is you should write fast, write as much as you can, because you only have a limited time left and you want to get all your stories out. This is the other part of the bad news. You're only going to be able to write so many stories, and that saying, in my opinion, kind of implies that there's a limited amount of stories that each of us just have like built into us that are waiting to be told, which that's not my experience at all. My experience is that the more you think about stories, the more you're writing stories, and the more you're kind of programming your brain to see the world through a prism of possible stories, the more story ideas you're going to have. So I've come to the conclusion that it's impossible to die empty. The more you write, the more story ideas you'll have, which is fine. I don't have to get all my ideas out. I just have to get the ones that I think are the best out, the ones that are burning the brightest inside of me. So I think that saying does come from a good place, but I disagree with it in that small way. So that's the bad news. Your life is finite. You can only read so many books. You can only write so many books. The good news is, though, that we have one weapon that we can use against time. See, time tries to trick us. It goes faster sometimes, slower sometimes. You can look down and 10 years have gone by, and you're like, wow, I didn't get the writing done that I wanted to get done. In the last 10 years, I've only written one thing, which happened to me. I got interested in some other stuff, and I always assumed, pretty soon I'll go back to writing, and I looked down and 10 years have gone by. We have one weapon, though, against time, and that is consistency. So let's think about this for a minute. Let's say you only have 10 years left in your life. If that's the case, and you can only put in 500 words a day, which is, not that many words for one day. But if you do that consistently, you're going to be able to probably write a solid 2 books a year. And that means the next 10 years that you have left you could write 20 books and leave a very sizable catalog. 20 books, that's super respectable, right? The key between those 10 years and the 10 years that I spent thinking about writing and not doing it is consistency. So it's all about, if you think about the river wearing down the rock over time, it's all about being consistent. And that is the hardest thing, especially I think for those of us who are interested in writing. For a lot of us, it's not the creativity that's hard. We have ideas for stories. That's not the hard part. A lot of times people who aren't writers or aren't interested in writing, or maybe they are interested, but they're just haven't done it before. The stuff they focus on is like, how do you get your ideas, stuff like that. I think for a lot of us, that's not the hard part. That's, I have many, many ideas for books. But the part that is the hard part is taking those ideas and breaking them down into small, actionable chunks and consistently performing those tasks over a period of years that's going to let me get as many stories as possible out into the world. I'm not going to die empty. That's impossible. But I do intend to die with lots of books out there, as many books as my time allows. Now, granted, I don't know how much time that is. It could be today. It could be 50 years from now. It could be 60 years from now. But whenever, I want to make sure I'm working consistently on that. Those are my bad news, good news for this week. Next week, I'm going to come back and talk to you a little more specifically about 3 things that I do to try to be more consistent. The things that I'm doing recently that are working, I'm going to show you kind of step by step what I'm doing to try and be more consistent. So I will talk to you next week. Until then, head on over to pthylton.com for more blogs and stuff like that. I did a post this week on BookTube, which was a lot of fun. Until next week, I will talk to you later, and keep writing the lights out.